Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about mental health. So this is something that can be considered a taboo topic, which it shouldn't be a taboo topic because a lot of people struggle with their mental health. And I just want people to click on this video and to know that they're not alone, and to know that I'm struggling with my mental health and have struggled with it. And so there are ways to get help, and just knowing that you're not alone in any given circumstance. So let's get into the video. So the background behind my mental health. So I have been through a lot of stuff since I was a little girl. But I think a lot of it stemmed from when my parents split up. They were never married, but they both cheated on each other, and they both split up. And so after that, I kind of noticed a decline because I had really good grades before, and then after that happened, and my dad moved away, and then we were living with my aunt for a while before we got our own place, and just like not seeing my dad anymore. And then my brother went off to college, and there was just like a lot of change going on, that like I just noticed a shift in my mental health because I was angry at my parents, and I was just like angry at the world that I became one of those statistics of children whose parents went through a divorce, even though it wasn't a divorce. It was just separation, but it's basically the same thing because we went our separate ways, and me and my sister moved in with my mom. And then my grandma ended up having a massive stroke that led her to be paralyzed on the right side. And she was literally at her house the day that it happened, and we shouldn't have let her went home, but we did. And like I remember she was eating chocolate pudding before she went home, and we didn't think like anything was like going on or anything. And so we let her go home, and then that night she ended up having a stroke. And she went from walking and driving and, talking and stuff to just laying in a hospital bed. Her face was all droopy. She didn't talk. She couldn't walk anymore. She couldn't drive anymore. She couldn't move her her whole right side. And so that really negatively affected my health, my mental health. And then my baby cousin Anthony was born stillborn, so that was another trauma in its case because I actually saw him in the hospital after my aunt delivered him, and just remember seeing how like tiny he was and everything, and I felt really like terrible for my aunt who had just experienced this. So then that was like another thing, and then my parents and I didn't really have the best relationships growing up. I was like fighting with my mom all the time. I didn't really have a good relationship with my dad. I hid a lot of stuff from my parents because I felt like I couldn't talk to them. So I just held in, bottled in all of my feelings until I eventually couldn't take it anymore. Like there was at one point where I grabbed a knife and I told myself that it would be better for me to die right now because I just didn't want to deal with any of the pain anymore. So it was hard for me to open up, and it was hard to trust people just because I was dealing with all this emotional baggage from childhood and everything, and there's a lot more that I could talk about. But so I eventually started opening up to my family ministries pastors, and kind of told them what was going on and everything. And then I ended up seeing a counselor for the first time. So you have counselors at your high school, and I started seeing mine weekly, just to talk about life and stuff, and she would help me with school and everything, and she became one of the best people in my life at that time. And it sucked that I waited so long to get a counselor to go see her because I knew it would have benefited me a lot more if I went sooner. So I only got to have her my senior year, but it was I was very thankful for my counselor and what she did for me and everything. Like, I remember I was struggling with passing my I-STEP tests, and like, you need to pass those tests in order to graduate. So I've taken the I-STEP, I've taken the ASVAB, I've taken all that stuff, and I was waiting on my math scores. And I remember at prom, she came up to me and she said, "Clea, I want you to know something. You finally passed your math ASVAB." And like, I like wanted to cry right then and there, because that means I could graduate. Like, she was the person who told me that. And so I was very thankful that I got a counselor at that point. And then once I came to college, I was all alone. Like, I was on my own. I didn't know anybody here. My family was 2.5 hours away. But I knew it was like good for me to get away from my family, because it actually like helped grow my relationship with my mom, being out of the house and not being at each other's throats all the time. And so when I met Preston, I started meeting with Preston every Wednesday. Preston's my campus minister here at CCF. I started meeting with him like every Wednesday and stuff, just to like update him about my life and just to talk about things that were going on. But then I kind of noticed that he, because he has a family and he has a life and stuff. And so I felt like almost a burden in a way, even though if he saw this video, he'd be like, "Clea, you weren't a burden." But it was just like how I was feeling at the time. And so I stopped like meeting with him once I started living here at CCF. And so my sophomore year, I kind of just like went along. And then my junior year, I made the decision like late in the school year. So like second semester, like April, to get a therapist. And my college does like free therapy. And so like, I wish I would have taken advantage of that sooner. But then a part of me was like, oh my gosh, that means I have to open up to a stranger. And I don't know if I have like the strength to do that, because that means I have to open up a lot of like worms that a can of worms that I don't want to open. But so I finally made the decision to go. And so I met Kathy, and Kathy has became my therapist from the end of my junior year, all of my senior year, and then all of junior year, and then all of this year, and then I'm gonna have her next year as well. And I just like couldn't be more thankful for Kathy. Kathy has just done a lot for me, and I wanted someone who wasn't going to be biased, and someone who didn't already know me, that could get to know me and my story, and someone that I was like comfortable with. And like, as soon as I opened up to Kathy, I knew that I was comfortable with her. And Kathy is another one who gets onto my butt about things, because like, she knew that I was struggling with school, and so she would drill it into my head that you have to get your grades up, and you want to become a teacher, then you need to get your grades up, and you need to stop failing classes and stuff like that. And she's very school oriented, which is good, because I needed at that time to be drilled into my head that like I wasn't going to get into the education program if I didn't get my act together. And she like helped me through a lot of like trauma in my life, like when it came to childhood and growing up. And she like helped me see that a lot of the stuff that I went through wasn't my fault. And that and she's helped me like a lot with like boundaries and telling people no, and learning how to redo things that I've learned from childhood. So like learning how to open up, learning how to speak more for myself. She's just, and like my anger, like I always say that, so I have an anger problem. Like I get angry really easily, but she took this piece of paper and she put it up to my face, and she said, when you have this piece of paper, you can't see anything else around you, and that's just like your anger. You have like these anger goggles on, so you can't see what else is happening around you because you're too focused on being angry. And so she's helped me like come up with techniques on how to deal with my anger, and how I just need to like like take a breath, calm down, go do something else, like go into my room or start painting or start journaling or something to distract myself from the anger. And then when I'm ready to address the problem, then I can't, like when it comes to like conflicts or whatever, like she's helped me work on how to not be so passive aggressive, and how I should like take a deep breath and then go talk to the person instead of like being passive aggressive about it and not talking to them for like a few days and stuff. And so yeah, Kathy helped me with when I lost my grandma and like dealing with the grief behind that. And she also got me to start seeing a psychiatrist for like my sleep issues and everything. And so I actually saw a therapist over the summer of last year, and it was helping to an extent, but then I still felt like I was kind of, like you could say I was probably depressed, because like I said in the first video, there was like a point in the summer where I was like failing all my classes, and I was like, man, it would be better off if I like died right now, or if I got hit by a car, or if I get kidnapped or something. Like I was just like sobbing and in tears and stuff. And so and then I started seeing Kathy again, and it was like better for me. And then I finally ended up getting better grades and stuff. And so recently I've been diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. And I think it all stems from after I lost my grandma, because my mom is dealing with the same thing where she got put on anxiety medication, and my aunt has anxiety, and so I think it all just stems from like trauma from that. But it's hard to like realize like, hey, you have anxiety. You know, like I was having really bad panic attacks just a few weeks ago. Well, no, it was like a month ago or something. Right before school ended, I started having massive panic attacks where my chest would clench. I couldn't breathe. I was like crying uncontrollably. There was like at one point where it was like a Thursday service at CCF, and I had already been crying because the guy who was speaking for the sermon, his sermon like hit really deep. And so I'd already been crying, and then I got back on stage to start singing, and I started breathing really hard, and I was like, I can't breathe, and my friend Delaney's like, you need to go sit down, Kalia. And so I went into the hallway of the bathroom and just sat down and like was breathing all like heavy. I couldn't catch my breath, and I was crying and stuff. And she came over to me, and Delaney came over to me, and she sat down next to me, and she was rubbing my arm, and she's like breathing with me and stuff. And then I was like in my room one time and started having a panic attack because I was crying about my grandma. And my friend Ashley is trying to console me and stuff through text. And she's like, Kalia, you need to breathe, you need to calm down and stuff like that. And like eventually I did, but I have never had panic attacks like that before until like after my grandma died. And so it's been just been a battle, and I've definitely been depressed. I'm not depressed right now or anything. I'm just dealing with that anxiety, but I have been depressed before. And I just want people to know that, like I said, they're not alone. Like I think a lot of people struggle with their mental health and struggle with the fact that like they have to admit that they need help. But I'm such a giant advocate for therapy, and so it makes me really mad, like especially because I'm a Christian, and so it makes me really mad when people say that Christians don't need therapy, they have God. Well, God created people in our lives to be there for us, to help us through our problems, and to have someone to actually talk to, because God is there, but he's not like physically here for me to like talk to. And like he's not gonna like give me answers and stuff like that. And so that's why I started seeing a therapist. But I'm a giant advocate for therapy, and I'm also a giant advocate for men getting therapy and men talking about their feelings, because a lot of men feel like they have to be these like strong people who think that they're a wuss when they're going through something, and men don't like open up and cry in front of people. And it's sad, because like that's what I'm gonna teach my son, that it's okay to cry and that it's okay to need help. And just know that there are giant like opportunities out there to start seeing a therapist. There's many of opportunities online like BetterHelp and stuff like that. A lot of them cost a lot, but you can either find a therapist through your insurance company, or most colleges have a therapist on their college campus that's free. So I would take advantage of those opportunities. But even if you just need someone to be a friend, someone that's going to sit there and listen to you, who's not going to judge you, and who's not going to be biased towards anyone else, who's going to be like in the middle of the situation and help you see both sides of the situation that's going on. Take advantage of that opportunity and go get the help that you need. You're not weak because you need medication. You're not weak because you need to go see a therapist. You need to do what's best for you. And if you're noticing that you're depressed and you have anxiety and stuff like that, then you need to go start seeing a therapist and get on medication for it. Like, it's okay if you're on medication. Like, I just want everyone to know that your mental health is important, and it's okay to need help. It's okay to speak up and say that you're struggling, because I have been in that position where I felt like I've been drowning, and I feel like it's hard to like come up out of the water. And it's okay to be like that sometimes. It's okay to be at the end of the rope, but you need to realize that everything's eventually going to be okay. It may not seem like it right now. Like, I used to hate when people told me that it was going to be okay, but you may not see that it's going to be okay right now, but like eventually you're going to rise above everything that's going to happen, that has been happening in your life, and you're going to see a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, and it's all going to be okay. I promise you. I have been through like a lot in my life, and I am one of the true people that can sit here and say that I've struggled with my mental health, but I also know that, by the help of my therapist and everything that, and the help of God, that I've known that it's going to be okay, and that I'm going to suffer, but eventually I'm going to be able to breathe again. Just know that everything happens for a reason, and you're more than your pain and your struggles. Everyone is broken in their own ways, and God makes you whole again, and He just wants you to come to Him and to realize that, He's always there for you and stuff. Piecing everything together, just know that it's okay to go see a therapist, and it's okay to get on medication, and it's okay to need help. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope that you subscribe and you like, and we'll see you for the next video. Bye, guys.